The future of conservatism depends on reconciliation beginning November 9th. With Donald Trump flailing in the polls just under 2 weeks from the presidential election, open conflict has broken out between many of the Republicans voting for Trump and those who see him as a moral and political bridge too far for conservatives in the Republican Party. For most people, that conflict is not based on disagreements about principle. Most never-Trumpers despise Hillary Clinton and will not vote for her. Most never-Trumpers even feel significant sympathy for the vote for Trump to stop Hillary argument. We believe that Trump fails to meet the most basic standard of morality and conservatism, and supporting him damages Republicans politically now and in the future, so we're not going to vote for either candidate. By contrast, most Trump voters despise Hillary Clinton and will vote against her. Most Trump voters are voting for Trump as the lesser of two evils, not because they support his agenda on trade or trust him as a thoughtful foreign policy sage. Most Trump voters are not Laura Ingraham or Bill Mitchell or Sean Hannity. That's been true since May. Most Trump voters will vote for Trump because they believe the overriding priority is to stop Hillary from entering the White House, and to that end, they're willing to overlook Trump's myriad flaws. So, why are the two sides of this debate at each other's throats? Mainly it's because they've been projecting bad motives onto the other side. On the one hand, some never-Trumpers have accused Trump voters of being high-handed, kind of sneering at them. The most vocal Trump supporters have spent nearly the entirety of the general election cycle focused not on helping Trump win, but on blaming never-Trumpers if he loses. They stated first never-Trumpers were unimportant to the debate because they're so few and far between. Then they stated never-Trumpers were the only thing standing between Trump and the White House. They've argued that all never-Trumpers secretly want Hillary Clinton to be president. They can't wait for a Hillary presidency. Absurd. Or they don't care about her corruption, idiotic, or were in the pay of nefarious forces. Ridiculous. The only people, literally the only people in this election cycle who have benefited monetarily are those who have boosted their careers by kissing Trump's ass. These vocal Trump supporters have engaged in the most crass moral preening. Those who disagree about Trump are pure evil, saboteurs, sellouts. Now, some never-Trumpers have made the mistake of attributing the rhetoric and feelings of the people who make these yucky arguments, the ardent base of Trump support, to people who are voting for Trump reluctantly. They feel assaulted, and so many never-Trumpers fail to hear the distinction between intelligent conservatives voting Trump as a last resort to stop Hillary and Trump cheerleaders who want Trump to be a bludgeon against the conservative establishment. Meanwhile, on the other hand, a lot of reluctant Trump supporters have accused never-Trumpers of high-handedness. They believe never-Trumpers are sneering at them, riding their high horses. They refuse to acknowledge decent rationales, either moral or political, for not voting Trump. The never-Trumpers don't say never-Trumpers are in the pay, the pro-Trumpers don't say never-Trumpers are in the pay of international bankers or secretly pray at Hillary shrines, but they claim never-Trumpers are whiners who won't get their hands dirty and simply want a virtue signal by refusing to vote for Trump. This misattribution of motives on both sides is really much more likely to spell the death of the Republican Party than Trump himself or Trumpism is. After the election, which Trump will probably lose, most Republicans will grieve. Never-Trumpers are going to grieve at the lost opportunity to stop Hillary Clinton and at paving her way by nominating a man eminently unfit and pathologically incapable of running even a half-decent campaign. They'll lament the damage done to the party by spending months snorting at sexual assault allegations and shrugging at playing footsie with the despicable alt-right. Reluctant Trump voters are also going to be grieving. They're going to grieve at the Trump loss generally. They'll lament both his win in the primaries and his loss in the general, but will generally acknowledge that he failed, and he failed his supporters in doing so. Now, that does provide the opportunity for a healing, so long as both sides recognize the genuineness of the other side's grief. Never-Trumpers have to acknowledge reluctant Trump voters felt they had to do what they did. They don't bear the stain of his sins for taking the lesser of two evils path, even if we think that was wrong. Reluctant Trump voters have to acknowledge, Never-Trumpers, we felt we had to do what we had to do, not out of a misguided attempt to demonstrate moral superiority, but out of a real abiding belief the only way to preserve conservatism and the Republican Party is to disassociate from the political electrical fire Trump represented. No conservative or Republican of decency will be celebrating on November 9th. No one is going to be popping the cork. Both never-Trumpers and reluctant Trump voters should recognize this. The only way to rebuild a Republican Party based on conservative principle is to acknowledge the good motivations of people who disagree about Trump. There is a real possibility such a rapprochement won't happen. That's because Trump and his campaign, they actually want the Civil War. They want us to fight each other. They want reluctant Trump voters to fight with never-Trumpers. They want to excise conservatives who wouldn't back Trump. They want to co-opt the conservatives who would. That's why in the waning days of the campaign, Trump is spending his time ripping on Paul Ryan, a Trump endorser, by the way, and blaming other Republicans for his own failures. Trump's team, including political arsonists like former and future Breitbart chairman Steve Bannon, want the right to burn itself out, making way for a resurgent nationalist populism that dispenses with constitutional conservatism altogether in favor of alt-right nonsense. Trump has an active rooting interest in initiating a civil war for both financial and political gain. He's planning and promoting that civil war now. To that end, Trump himself stokes the absolute lie, and it is a lie, that Republicans who won't vote for him are traitors to conservatism, hell-bent on belittling those who vote for Trump. The only way to rebuild a Republican Party based on conservative principle is to acknowledge those good motives. We all want to stop Hillary Clinton and her vile agenda. We all want to reverse decades of Democratic policy on immigration and government growth, on social leftism and leftist race baiting. If Trump loses, we'll have to get over our differences about him to do that. We all had sincere positions on Trump. It wasn't just preening. It wasn't unearned moral superiority. It wasn't virtue signaling. We had serious disagreements, but we still agree on basic principles. If we can agree on all of that, there's a future for conservatism. If Trump succeeds, though, in his post-election plan to divide conservatives between people who were loyal to him and people who weren't, he'll have told his biggest lie, and on the basis of that, won his greatest victory. The conservative movement's collapse will be the final step in the political Armageddon that he and his advisors truly, truly desire. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Alrighty, lots to talk about today, including news stories about Hillary Clinton's evil, deep corruption, and it's horrible. That's what she is. We'll get to all of that momentarily, but first we have to say hello to our friends at Tracker.com. So thetracker.com is where you need to go. It's spelled T-H-E and then Tracker, like Tracker.com. Enter promo code Ben. What the Tracker does is it saved my marriage because my wife loses her phone at least 3 times a day and then asks me where it is. And of course, I have no idea where it is because it's not my phone. Thankfully, we have Tracker. You put the Tracker on the phone and it allows me to call her phone. And even if the ringer is off, it turns the ringer on so that she can find her phone. You can also put it on your keys. You can put it on your wallet. You will never lose things again. You can find its precise location with the tap of the button. And they're finding apparently over 1 million misplaced items each and every day. So you get a free Tracker Bravo with any order. You get one of these devices with any order that you make, as long as you use the promo codes. You go to the Tracker, T-H-E, Tracker.com, enter promo code Ben. And it is awesome. As I say, it has alleviated a great stressor in my marriage, which is my wife's tendency to lose things. And I'll admit I lose things on occasion as well, because my brain is filled with too much brilliance to care about where my wallet is. So that's sort of how, but the Tracker will solve all of your problems and make your life a better place. Okay, so here we go. There's a lot going on in Hillary land. So there's a memo that broke, and it just demonstrates that the Clinton Foundation is a giant scam. Always was a giant scam. Okay, so here's the deal. Hacked memo from the Clinton Foundation. It's from a guy named Doug Band. Doug Band is a former Bill Clinton aide. He started a group called Teneo with a couple of other former Bill Clinton aides. And Teneo, Bill Clinton was being paid like $2 million a year by this firm. It was a consulting firm, and basically they were Bill Clinton Inc. That's how they described themselves. They would go to various corporations, corporate clients, and they would say to them, I want you to give $100 million to the Clinton Foundation. While you're at it, would you mind funneling a couple mil into Bill's pocket? Really, that's what this memo says. It says that Teneo, quote, would ask and encourage our clients to contribute to the foundation. Independent of our fundraising and decision-making activities on behalf of the foundation, we have decided ourselves to help the president secure and engage in for-profit activities. They called the operation Bill Clinton Inc. They would even solicit in-kind services for the president and his family includes the Secretary of State, personal travel, hospitality, vacation, and the like. Band talks openly of what the Washington Post now calls a circle of enrichment, in which he raised money for the Clinton Foundation from top-tier corporations like Dow Chemical and Coca-Cola that were clients of his firm, Teneo, while pressuring many of the same donors to provide personal income to the former president. And it worked. Band raised $8 million for the foundation. He created contracts worth $66 million for the Clintons over the next 9 years. So as an example, and he used the State Department as sort of the payoff. For example, Teneo brought together Clinton and the chief executive of Dow Chemical, a guy named Andrew Laveris, and he helped facilitate Dow's donation of millions to the Clinton Foundation and tens of millions to Teneo. Simultaneously, Hillary Clinton visited Northern Ireland as Secretary of State and thanked Dow for their creation of jobs in the country. Right, so that seems like a minor thing, and this is the problem with the story, is that there's no quote-unquote smoking gun. Now, the ties between Teneo and the Clinton Foundation, the State Department, they all run really deep. As we all know at this point, Cheryl Mills, who's Hillary's top hatchet woman, she's her lawyer, really corrupt. She worked heavily with the Clinton Foundation while she was at the State Department. Huma Abedin worked at the State Department, and she worked for Teneo at the same time. She worked to, quote, assure a presidential appointment for a supporter of the Clinton Foundation, according to a chain of emails obtained by Politico. Chelsea Clinton was upset enough by Teneo's infiltration of the Clinton Foundation that she ended up ripping on Teneo to John Podesta, who is Hillary's current campaign chair. And that led Doug Band, who's the head of Teneo, to call Chelsea, quote, a spoiled rich brat who has nothing to do but create issues to justify what she's doing because she, as she said, has not found her way and has a lack of focus in her life. So all of this is really bad stuff for the Clintons, or would be if the Trump campaign were focused on explaining it. Now, there is an advantage for the Clintons. The Clintons, number one, know how to run a good scam operation. Right? Trump Foundation is not a good organization. They don't do anything worthwhile. The Clinton Foundation is a good scam operation. So Tony Soprano owned a garbage company, right? He used to have a waste disposal company. They actually disposed of waste. So that meant that if you looked at Tony Soprano, you wouldn't see the gangsterism. All you would see is a garbage company, right? And then he'd go around saying the mafia doesn't exist. The Clinton Foundation is the same way. They distribute a lot of money. They take in a lot of money. They do some good work because that's a front, right? Just like Genco Olive Oil Company was the front for the Corleones, the Clinton Foundation is the front for Hillary's routine. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, it's very complex. You have Teneo, which is a private organization, coordinating with the nonprofit, the Clinton Foundation, and both of them coordinating with the State Department to get favors. And the thing is that the smoking guns are not huge. And that's part of the problem here, too, is that the favors that Hillary was granting to people are relatively small in the grand scheme of things. It's not billion-dollar favors, trillion-dollar favors. It's the kind of thing where she thanks Dow Chemical when she visits Northern Ireland, or it's the kind of thing where the Clinton Foundation directs money to rebuilding in Haiti to friends of Hillary Clinton's and Bill Clinton's with the approval of the State Department, and it's like a $10 million contract, and $5 million of it goes into somebody's pocket. People don't tend to get too upset about this kind of stuff because they're not smoking guns as much as they are sort of smoking matches. That's because Hillary is a pro at this and she knows how to play this game. Hillary is a professional criminal. Bill is a professional criminal. They've been doing this for 20 years. And that means that the only way to uncover this is to really prosecute the case, which means that the only person who's going to prosecute the case are the Republicans, right? That's the only way that you're going to be able to prosecute in this case. So the media, signal their outrage, but they're not really willing to go all the way in explaining what exactly is happening with these scandals. So the Washington Post ran this story. The Washington Post, did a full story on it, but it's a long story. It's a little bit complex. It's a little hard to understand unless you're reading closely. So what you end up with is the overall impression that Hillary is corrupt. But then when you have people like Media Matters, Hillary shills, come out and try to pierce through that fog and say, no, she never did anything wrong, people don't know enough to rebut it. Right? So, for example, Donald Trump in the second debate, or actually in the third debate, Donald Trump mentioned the Clinton Foundation, and he just said, what they did in Haiti, it's unbelievable. It's just terrible what they did in Haiti. He's right. What they did in Haiti is really awful. The Haitian people were jacked around by the Clinton Foundation. Again, the Clinton Foundation greenlit the use of firms that were friendly to the Clintons, and they built basically corrugated iron shacks that blew over at the first moment's notice. People in Haiti hate that. But Trump didn't explain what he means by that. So most people go, well, I don't know what happened in Haiti. And because Trump only reads the headlines, he didn't have the capacity to lay out all of the steps of what actually happened in full living color. And that's why the media have focused so much on Trump scandals, not only because they're corrupt, they are, not just because they're leftist, they are, but because it's a lot easier to understand, grab him by the bleep, right, Trump's campaign, Trump's statement to Billy Bush, than it is to understand the relationship between Teneo, which is run by Clinton aides, and the Clinton Foundation and the State Department, and who did Huma Abedin work for? Was it Teneo? Was it the Foundation? Was it the Department? Who was Cheryl Mills working for? A lot of bit players, a lot of kind of multiple conflicting threads. That's because they're good at this, right? That's because they're hiding their groundwork. And that doesn't mean that they're innocent, because they aren't. They're super duper guilty. They'll do this with the executive branch, too. They did it the first time they were in power. But it should be a reminder of just how corrupt they are. Now, the media are doing something, and I want you to pay attention to it, because this is where the media, you can tell the media think Trump is going to lose because they're actually starting to cover Hillary scandals. This is the way that this works. When the media think Trump was going to win, all of a sudden, the only thing they would cover is Trump. Now they think Trump's going to lose, so now they're going to create the impression that they care about Clinton corruption. So later when we say, you never cared about Clinton corruption, they can say, really? Look at all the stories we ran. Look at all the amazing stories, right? I mean, and so this is what they're doing now. Ron Fournier, Ron Fournier, I think, works for National Journal, and he is complaining about the circle of enrichment.
I did that story, the one you're talking about, when this scandal first broke in early 2015, and it was based on a person very close to the Clintons, who I'd known for a long time, who worked for the Clintons for a long time, who was saying, getting to the motive of why she had this secret server, and it was because of the circle of enrichment, the phrase that the Washington Post pulled up today. That was clear even then. There was already some connections between Doug Band and shaking down donors at the time. And this person was saying this is really about the foundation. It's not about the email. And more importantly, Joe, for the next 18 months, I wrote story after story basically begging the Clintons to stop taking foreign money, to come clean with this email, to turn over to the Inspector General the secret server, to stop lying about what went into this.
And Fournier's coverage, he has, in fairness, covered Hillary better than a lot of these other sources. But what you're seeing is places like CNN, which have basically ignored Hillary's scandals in favor of Trump's all the time. Now they're trying to cover their butts by claiming that they're just offended. They can't believe Hillary's corrupt. Again, if you can't believe Hillary's corrupt, it's because you haven't been watching closely enough. So we will continue along these lines. Plus, we have to get to the Trump speech to Black America, which has some interesting things and some not so interesting things. And I think it's worthwhile talking about it if you continue on at dailywire.com. Plus, today's the mailbag. So if you join right now, you become a subscriber today and join at dailywire.com, $8 a month. And that means that you can send us live questions. We'll be doing some live questions today, right, guys? We have the technical capacity. Yes, live questions today at dailywire.com. So we'll be answering those. And you can also get right now, if you sign an annual subscription, then you get a free signed copy of my new book, True Allegiance, which has been doing really, really well. It comes out in print November 1st, but you get exclusive subscriber signed copies, which you can put on your mantle and treasure forever as the most valuable item you own. So make sure that you go to Daily Wire, or you can alternatively sell them on eBay for like $11. In any case, you can go to dailywire.com to check it out and become part of the team that is the biggest conservative podcast in America.